So throughout the semester, we've learned about different planning principles and practices and how to apply them in our lives, as well as in the group workshop we delivered. A planning principle is essentially a theory that people believe will help you plan better. An example of a planning principle is Covey's 7 habits. Now this is considered to be a principle of planning, as these 7 habits are concepts, they're theoretical. In contrast, a planning practice is a physical tool that can be used to improve your planning. Examples of planning principles are SWOT analyses, which I've demonstrated, and Eisenhower matrix, which I've also demonstrated, which will be in my portfolio. And these are considered to be practices as they are physical tools that, and in this case, physical documents that you can enter information into to help you better organise your life. And throughout my portfolio, you have 2 examples and descriptions of planning practices I've implemented. So right now, what I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about is Covey's 7 habits and how I applied some of them to my own experiences in our group's workshop. Now in my first paragraph of my self-reflection, I've talked about a role I took on through my own accord. I believe I actually employed Covey's first habit, which is being proactive. And this first habit, relates to focusing on what I can personally influence. But as you read through my portfolio, you'll understand why I think that. One example that I believe to be of importance, that I didn't actually expand on in my reflections, is something that occurred when my group was deciding on what contemporary issue we would address. In this situation, I actually applied almost all of Covey's principles. And what happened was when we were deciding on a contemporary issue, I noticed a division appearing in our group. One side wanted to do one idea, and the other side a different idea. And I realised that if this division continued outside of the workshop time and was allowed to fester when we got home, there would only be negative consequences. And as a result, I used all of Covey's 3 habits relating to leading others, and one of his other habits, which relates to managing self. Now, during this whole process, I had in mind Covey's 4th habit, one of the habits which actually relates to leading others, and it's all about mutual benefit. And behind this habit is the idea that an effective long-term relationship, which we needed being a large group, is built upon mutual respect and mutual benefit. This then had a domino effect on Covey's 6th habit of group synergy. Covey talks about the fact that the whole group is greater than the sum of its parts, and an effective group synergy helps to lead to new and better alternatives. So therefore, if I could generate a mutually beneficial outcome for the 2 divisions that were emerging, then we would in turn have a greater group synergy, and overall our group would be more effective. So this is what I wanted to achieve. This was my why during this following recount. So the first thing I did was go over to each group, one after the other, and inquire about their issue, and how they envisioned it being communicated in our workshop. In doing so, I applied Covey's 5th habit, once again relating to others, to leading others, and a big aspect of this habit is that in order to communicate effectively, which we had to do considering we were a massive group, we must first understand each other. And in going over to each group and just listening, I believe it made both groups feel as though they were being understood. And then I brought the 2 groups together to start a big group discussion. And during this discussion, I prompted questions to both sides regarding the practicality of their issues, and this, beginning with the end in mind, which actually happens to be Covey's 2nd habit. And as I started to ask questions individually, more and more people got involved, and it actually started a very productive group discussion. Now, this whole group discussion then led to a joining of ideas, and ultimately our contemporary issue was born. And upon reflecting on these events, it's visible to see that when applied correctly, Covey's principles do work, and we are actually proof of that. And personally, I do not think we would have had the smooth sailing we did if I had not stepped up into this role and brought the 2 ideas together. When you read through my SWOT analysis, you will actually see that leadership and socializing are 2 of my key strengths. So thank you for listening, and have an enjoyable read through the rest of my portfolio. Ka kite!